Hello again. This is day 2 of our conversation on blended learning. Day 1 was a general conversation about blended learning. What is blended learning? How do we blend? And what considerations are considered when blending? Today is action day. We would like to demonstrate these 3 factors that we include when blending. What is blending? How do you blend? And what considerations are considered? But most importantly, how do we mesh critical thinking with blended learning? As we approach day 2, I prepared a PowerPoint presentation so we can get an overview of what we're trying to do and let everybody know what we're talking about and what we're looking at. So if you turn behind you, ladies and gentlemen, you see on the board as we begin, the topic is the immersion of blended learning. As I indicated yesterday, blended learning is a new concept in public education. It is student-centered in its approach, allowing students in school to use time and resources more flexible than the traditional school environment. This is what blended learning is supposed to look like. This is a general cloud of what blended learning looks like. The teacher-led instructions, printed instructions, which is traditional, computer-mediated instruction, web-based assessment, but more importantly, in the middle, who is dear to us is our students, and students-centered blended learning. Again, blended learning approach combines face-to-face classroom methods with computer-mediated activities to form an integrated instructional approach. For example, when a class meets face-to-face during a whole group discussion, that usually the teacher takes time to go over the general concepts of what we're about to talk about. The concept of blended learning is allow the teacher to move away from the traditional face-to-face general discussion to allow more individual face time with the student, to allow that student to get more time with learning what is being required of, consistent with the Common Core and state standards. Again, this is, if you look at the left side third of the circle on the board, that is what we're talking about. Web-based, news group, email, chat, anything that has to do with computer or any type of computer tool. iPad, iPhone, cell phone, anything that allows the student to get some type of guided intervention so they can help them learn better and have a successful educational period of time. As we talked about yesterday, while blended learning is a new concept, what we need to have are teachers who are effective in creating blended learning and being supportive of their students in learning. Remember, the goal of blended learning is to join the best aspects of both face-to-face and online instructions. And I put this in bold again. Blended learning requires effective teacher to guide supported student learning. Today we have with us the same participants we had yesterday: Mr. White, Mr. Cunningham, Mr. Smith, Ms. DeBarry, Ms. Paula, Ms. Lisa, Mr. Daniels, Ms. Rush, and Dr. Townsell. As we begin our discussion, we join everybody to involve themselves in our discussion. Lisa, we come to you today. How can you demonstrate for us what is blended learning?
Okay, we're just going to move to the computer. We will be showing you a program called LearnZillion. Paul and I worked on it together. LearnZillion is a program, we use IXL in school, so I wanted to find something new for teachers to use, and LearnZillion was used by one of my friends who was also a teacher, and they have piloted blended learning in their school this year. So I asked her if there was one program you thought was a necessity for blended learning, what would it be? And it was LearnZillion, and after Paul and I looked at it, I absolutely understand why. It's a free online program. It has math, phonics, reading, language, and it aligns all of these with the Common Core standards. Paul's going to explain a little bit more about it.
And we thought some of the benefits to it is that it's a free online, so you don't have to wait till your school buys something and everybody agrees to what they're going to have. You can go here, you can use it, and you can have your own class use it how you want. You can use it in the rotation, where it's like the station rotation or the lab rotation, which are two aspects of blended learning. The areas keep expanding, they keep adding more to it, so it's an ever expanding. And this can go with the child every year because they just have a login. So even if the teacher the next year isn't using it, then they can still go on and see these and help them in their math. And you can also flip your classroom, where I guess some of blended learning is to flip your classroom, where you can assign them to go watch the videos at night and maybe do a little practice and watch the videos at night, and then what you would regularly give for homework, they might be doing in the classroom, so you could be working one-on-one or in small groups. And I went online to see other ones that would be accessible because just for parents to get online, and there were some other ones like AAA Math and Fun Brain, where it was easy to get on. The parents could navigate through it because I couldn't, and they could do some math problems on too. And of course, there's always Khan Academy, which we love. So, and this is really user friendly. So she's going to explain it.
Okay, if we can go to the board. I logged in as the teacher. The teacher and the students have a different login. I'm just going to give you a quick overview by using dashboard. If you look at the notifications, obviously I only have one student enrolled, but right when you come up to this page, it will show you all of your students that are enrolled, and it will also show you what assignments they are looking for, or what assignments they're working on and have finished. I wanted to show you how easy it is to set up your students and set up a class and to assign assignments to each student. I'm just going to show you this quick clip. It's about 50 seconds long, and it really explains how to set up the class and how to set up the students.
On LearnZillion, it's easy to give your students an assignment. The first step is to set up a class, which can include one student or many. Click on Classes, then Add Class. Then enter the basic details about your class. Once your class is set up, you can add students. Once students are in the class, you'll give them an enrollment code so that they can enroll in the class. Just click on Enrollment Code. You'll get a PDF of directions and enrollment codes that you can give to each of your students. That's how you set up a class and students in LearnZillion.
Okay, so if you look on the bottom, it really gives you a video for or how to do everything to set up a class and how to assign everyone with lessons. So the next thing we're going to do is I set up a class last night. I'm going to go to Classes. I'm going to click it, and that just shows that you can make many different classes. Webinar is the class that we're going to look at today. So I'm going to sign off as the teacher, and I am going to log on as a student.
So as you are logging on, this blended learning tool that you're using, how has it created upward mobility for students?
Well, you can, the nice thing about it is it's so user-friendly, and you can assign each student different sites to see, what they're having problems with. It's so easy that I can go in, it can literally take me 15 minutes, and I can look and see where my students are having problems and assign them each their own individual assignment.
So when you assign a new guided intervention, do you see progress in your students?
Well, remember, this is one I haven't used yet. It's just to introduce, to find something new. Like I said, someone's going to be introducing IXL. Khan Academy was one that we were very familiar with. So this was something that I decided to look at to use next year, and it was something I really liked, so I wanted to share it with everyone.
So when you use Khan Academy, did you see an increase in your students?
Yes, yes.
It'll show you the percentage.
It does, and I'll show you that in 1 second. It'll show you, it does practice reports. All right, so I used Taylor. Taylor would log in, and this is the screen she would see. She would click on webinar, because that would be her class. And this will come up. These are assignments that I assigned Taylor for the week. Okay, so let's just try the first round. Round whole numbers to, round whole numbers to the nearest 10 or 100. I'm going to quick switch back because I didn't need to press that one. Okay, we're going to start with the playlist. Okay, under the playlist, you will see first there is a lesson video. There's 2,000 programs, and each one has a lesson video. So Taylor would click on the lesson video. She would watch it. The nice thing about the lesson videos is they all start with lesson objectives. They give common mistakes when trying to solve these problems, and then they give a practice. So it's 4 minutes.
How do you know the value of 5 in 1,857? Is it worth 5 or 50? In this lesson, you will learn how to find the value of a digit by using arrow cards. Let's review. Our numerical system is made up of 10 digits, 0 through 9. The value of each digit depends on its place in a number. Let's also review our base 10 blocks. Our ones are represented with individual cubes. 10 cubes make a group of 10, 10 groups of 10 make 100, and then 10 groups of 100 make 1,000. We can use base 10 blocks to show numbers such as 2,467. You can see that we have 2 groups of 1,000, 4 hundreds, 6 groups of 10, and 7 ones. Even though the 2 is a smaller digit, it is worth more than the 7 because the 2 is in the thousands. A common mistake that many students make is thinking that the digit 5 in 257 has a place value of just 5. The 5 in 257 has a value of 50 because it's in the tens place. Let's build a number. First, we're going to start with 800 and use our arrow cards. On top of that, we'll layer 50, and on top of that, we'll add a 7. We have built 857. The 8 is in the hundreds, the 5 is in the tens, and the 7 is in the ones. If we look at each of these digits, we can determine their value by their place in the number. The 8 is not just worth 8, it is worth 800 because it's in the hundreds. The 5 is in the tens and is worth 50.
Okay, I think that was a good example of the lesson. Like I said, at first it says the objective, then it does common mistakes, and then it goes into the core lesson. So the student would watch the entire lesson. They would go back to playlist. And this time they have a practice video. On the practice video, it's actually practicing what they just learned. If you look on the side, understanding the value of the digits in multiple digit number, there are actually 8 different lessons that they look at. Okay? The guided practice is going to work on all 8 of those lessons. So they will practice their a guided practice where they'll have help. Then they're ready to start the practice for themselves.
Lisa,
yes.
Can you tell me about Taylor, the success of Taylor when using this program? Your success, or this program's success with Taylor.
Well, I think
are you asking me to Taylor actually do this?
Yeah.
No, actually I did this, and just to play with it, to see like, okay, if she got it wrong, what would it do? I think an important thing to do is if you are going to present a computer program or present a lesson like this to your students, you need to make sure that it's actually collecting the data that you want, and it's, you know, a program that you believe in. So I actually went in as Taylor.
Okay.
And I made Taylor up just to see, okay, if I make mistakes, will it answer for me? Do I like the way it presents the practices? Do I think there is enough practice before it quizzes? So she did not actually do it. Would I use this with my daughter? Definitely. Definitely. I think this is a great tool to really keep kids in line with the Common Core standards.
So if let's say you're teaching, or Mr. White is teaching you,
Mm-hmm.
and Monday he did whole group discussion, and Mr. White found you very hesitant or uneasy with some of the things he talked about on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at this computer model that you just showed us, and you are the student now,
Mm-hmm.
in the 5th grade class, how would you feel working with this program?
I honestly think this program, like I said,
Thinking as a 5th grader now.
oh, I think it would be very easy to use, and I think because it's, well, this is actually under a 3rd grade,
Okay.
but because they use the manipulatives and show you them, I mean, I think it would be wonderful.
And I think that when one of the rotations in blended learning was a station rotation. So if you use this on the computers in your room, at other stations that you had them go to, we do have those block manipulatives, so you could have them at another station showing the 856 in the blocks and doing that. So as you go through all the rotations in your room, you could expand and you could have them make those arrow cards, and you could have them be putting those on in a different station.
Well, let me try this question again. The visual aspects of the program, the colors, the blocks, the computer talking to you, and other attributes of this program. Looking at the children in your classroom, would you think the children would gravitate towards this
Yes, most
end?
definitely. Most definitely, because they can work at their own pace too. If they understood that part of the lesson, they could pause it like I did and try lesson 2. And they can find the areas that they didn't understand.
And it show you a mistake, right? It show you a mistake, right?
It will, and yet I'll show you that. We didn't. The children did not answer any questions on their own yet. The guided practice, they actually pause for a second and they write it down on a piece of paper, and then the teacher comes back on and gives them the correct answer. So they went through the lesson, they went through a practice, but they did not answer any questions yet that will be graded in the data that we will receive at the end.
Okay.
I think you made a really good point that when you're choosing blended technologies, that you know your children who you're instructing, and so you have to really practice the tools yourself to make sure that they work with your children and not just choose what everyone's saying is using. So with this Learn Zillion, it was a really smart idea to go ahead and create a test classroom instead of just testing it on your children.
And then that also brings in the key with also the teacher being involved in choosing and helping to choose in the process of what would work best with blended learning. I think that's
And then you get the parent involved on the computer like that.
When at a younger age, I think they only need so much to focus on. I mean, they're going to answer this question. They don't need a lot going on when they're trying to
They don't
focus.
lose focus.
Because this is going to be like a 3rd grader answering
And I think
this.
this is applicable not only to 3rd grade, to even higher grades.
And this does,
Because
it's
it
K
goes.
through 12.
Yeah.
Exactly, it gives a
And so
picture.
this is 3rd grade, so you don't know what 12th, you didn't look at 12th grade to see.
And just to say, this is an excellent program because it touches all the facets to blended learning. When you look at the kinesthetic learners, the visual learners, and the audio learners, but also it blends in and meshes with their concepts because it's hands-on, and then they can sit at their station. When you talk about the pace that you refer to with the decorum, that's the environment, the stations, the different
Right.
sets, that helps them tremendously because it not only gets their attention, but it captures their attention, and that's great. I like the program.
Right. And the nice thing about this, so now they're actually practicing. And they can practice as many problems as they need until they feel successful. When they're done, they can say, I'm done practicing. Okay? And then they will go back to classes. And now they feel that they've practiced enough. They'll go back onto class. And now they'll take a quiz on the skill that they just learned. I'm going to log off with the student because after the quiz, the student would log off and they would be done for the day. So I'm going to log off as the student, and I'm going to log on one more time as the teacher, just to show you the data that is collected and how useful it is. Okay, so I'm going to go back to classes. Okay. The first thing I can do is I can view their practice. And the reason that I wanted to make sure I could view their practice, maybe it's not going to come on, is because when it does, I don't know why it's not working. When it does come up, it will say, oh, here we go, okay, that she practiced on June 4th. The first time she practiced, and I feel a lot of times students will do this, they don't feel like doing it at the time, so they'll press any numbers. And this is what I really liked about it. First of all, it talks exactly about what core standard are they looking at, and then the duration of the time. She answered 2 questions in a minute or less. She got both of them wrong. So now I can make some assumptions like, okay, she didn't feel like doing it that day. You know, she took 1 minute to answer 2 questions. You know, obviously this is an appropriate score for her. But then I can look at the next one. We're still working on the same core standard. She took 5 minutes this time, worked on 8 questions, and got 7 of them right. So now I can at least make the assumption that she does understand it now, and maybe the first time she just really wasn't in the mood to do it. Okay, so then I'm going to go back. This time I'm going to go onto the site, and now I'm going to view how she did on the quiz. There was 1 quiz submitted. Okay, and this actually shows you all the questions that were on the quiz. There's 5 questions. She got number 4 and 5 wrong. What I can do then is I can say, okay, what were questions 4 and 5, and it will bring up the quiz for me, and I can actually see, was the wording difficult? Like, why did she get questions 4 and 5 wrong but did so well in the beginning? So I think the data that we get from this is wonderful, and it can really help us move the child on, especially when we're talking about Common Core standards.
That's like homework.
And yeah, the nice thing is that parents, there's even a letter on here for parents. It gives them how to sign their child in. One interesting thing was for the older grades that parents could go on. Like sometimes kids will come home with homework and math homework, and they'll be like, oh no, I don't remember how to do this. They can go on, and parents, it was saying, that will actually watch the videos and be like, oh yeah, now I remember, and they can sit down with their child then and help their child.
So let me ask you a question now, Lisa. Now that you have a 5-question test, question 4 and 5 were missed. Now, day 2, this is Monday, now it's day 2, Tuesday. How would you now go about teaching? Or, because now that you have seen what the results, so now you have to reflect. Now, how do you go about teaching them?
Well, I'll look at the questions. So questions 1, 2, and 3 were actually asking time-lapse questions. So saying that, you know, a movie started at 7 o'clock, it was a 2.5-hour movie, what time did the movie end? But if I look at 4 and 5, Lisa starts studying at 6:15. Which clock shows the time Lisa starts studying? This one is actually looking at being able to read the clock and understanding the hour hand and the minute hand. So I can look right at that problem and say, okay, this is what you're not understanding. And then maybe I want to take out like Judy Clock and work with them with a hands-on approach.
Can this program create tests for the individual student?
It does not. It just does the quizzes.
But you can actually do that yourself.
But another neat thing is, so if they take a quiz and they get all of them wrong, you can then print a blank quiz And after they practice, after they watch the lessons again, they can retake the quiz to see if the information is then retained.
Have you identified any other programs that you can use that we can share later with some of our other colleagues relating to other programs that we might consider using?
Other than LearnZillion?
Yes.
Well, we said Khan Academy was a good one.
Okay.
IXL, and I think that's going to be presented yet today. IXL is wonderful. That is a program you have to pay for. Paula, you have a
I
few
said
also?
that when I went on just to see what parents could get on with their kids and just maneuver, that AAA math was
Okay.
really good because I went on different ones because I pulled up a site that said these are like the Sylvan had like the 10 top or 15 top. And when I tried some of them, I'm like, okay, how do you get in this? How do you do it? And as a parent, and I'm not tech savvy that much, but as a parent, because I had to, it's like, okay, that's wasting my time, I don't know. But there was a couple as I went through, like AAA math and flex math, that you could do it right away. I could figure it out and go, oh yeah, I can see this. Oh, this would be fun for kids of all different ages. And of course, Khan Academy is wonderful, and they're expanding into so much more than just math, that now you can use it as a more of a resource than just math.
Okay, thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Mr. Smith, now that Lisa has shown us, what is blended learning and how she uses it, can you tell us how to blend?
Sure. Upon yesterday's session, we were talking about how blended learning is for the learners who are active in learning, and that is you use it as a multimedia technology, and also the decorum of your classroom, which is the learning environment, followed up by the social media or the assessment tools. So what we're going to do today is we're going to do a mini lesson. And you can work in groups or pairs. And today we're going to talk about fire. And how we blend fire in with this lesson, we're going to talk about how fire is designed, what's your rationale of a fire. So look at the word. Before you begin, can you write the word fire? The word fire is already written for you, so look at the word fire and give me 3 examples or words or phrases on your paper that talk about fire. So what word comes to mind when you see the word fire? Word or phrase, and you can write that on the line. Fire. Yes, okay. Write that word down. Excellent. I heard a word say hot. Fire. When the word fire comes to me, you think of water.
We wrote down pretty.
Okay. Okay.
Blaze.
Okay. Blaze. Okay, Brother White. Water. Okay. Oxygen. Okay, great. Sister Rush.
Burn.
Burn. Excellent. Burn, water, smoke.
Engulf.
Pretty.
I'm sorry.
Engulf.
Engulf.
Pretty.
Excellent.
Red.
Red.
Yellow.
It's pretty to look
Yep.
at when you sit on campus.
Excellent. I heard some excellent words. Hot, exhaust, burn, water. Now, at the end of this lesson, we will be doing a mini experiment. And what we're going to do is encompass blended learning with this lesson by showing you how a fire turns green. But before we begin, I need these individual persons to look up these words that's below. Fire. I need Brother White and Sam to look up fire. You may use your cell phone, your iPad, or your computer. Sister DeBerry, you can look up the word copper sulfate with your iPad or cell phone. Sister White and Sister Lisa, you look up the word energy. And Sister Rush, you look up the word for me, thank you, electrons. Mrs. Rush, yes. And Brother John, you look up the word heat. Let's make a flame. Okay. So everyone knows that word? Because these words are going to encompass and relate to how to make a fire. And when we're looking at blended learning, we actually want to get the students engaged. And right now what we're doing is actually participating. Now you're using the capabilities of multimedia and technology through your iPad, cell phone, computer to look up various vocabulary words that relate to how to make a fire. Now, once you find your word, save it, retrieve it, and then I want you to share it. Because these certain, yep, this third one, yep, right there, and you can just freeze it right there, Mr. Donovan. Thank you. Remember, we're looking at the vocabulary, we're looking at how to use and encompass the technology. Words that deal with how to make a fire, a green fire. Because if you look at your handout, it's green. Okay, I'm gonna give you one more minute. And everyone so far is on task and doing a great job. Excellent, excellent. Yes, Brother John?
I just, the word you gave me was heat.
Okay.
And I think one thing that goes with blended ed, learning is that because heat, if you look it up on the internet, the first thing that will come up in this season of time would be Miami heat. And so some students, even as you're teaching, you have to, they would get stuck and say, I can't find heat when it has to do with fire, all I can see is basketball. So I think that when you're doing blended learning, it's also a teaching tool to show people how to do internet searches and find the topic what they're looking for.
And that's a fabulous, fabulous connection because this is the NBA playoff and a lot of our kids watch basketball, they watching sports, and the playoffs is a big thing. But he took the word heat and connected that to the word heat, which is also blended learning. Excellent.
Our word was fire.
Okay,
And,
fire.
I wrote prior to looking up oxygen, combustion, and fuel. And what we learned in the definition is the rapid oxidation of material and exothermic chemical process of combustion.
Okay.
Releasing heat, light, and various reaction products, store, oxidate.
Oxidation. Read that first part again for me again, a little louder.
So it's, fire is the rapid oxidation of
Okay.
material in the exothermic chemical process of combustion.
Okay, great. Now, you said about oxidation, and when we talk about oxidation, we're talking about a chemical element, but it also talks about the uses of fire. In order for a fire or a flame to react, it has to have carbon and hydrogen. Now, those two fires or those two elements produces the fire, but also with the combination of oxygen ignites the fire. But the question is this: how does the fire turn green? Think about that. When we talk about blended learning, now we're encompassing critical thinking. Before you begin, and I'm sorry I didn't get to everybody, but I will come back to you. Read this sheet on why and how does fire turn green. Critical thinking. Just to get some more information on how and why does fire turn green. Read that over. And then Sister Lisa and Ms. Paula, I will come to you first because I didn't get a chance to come to you. And Mrs. DeBerry.
So when everybody in your class is operating using the various technological tools,
Okay.
how is the success rate with the involvement of your students as it relates to participation, and how well do you see the light bulbs coming on and the way they are grasping what you're trying to do? Do you see more interest in learning?
That's a good point, Mr. Ellaby. And what I found out doing this different experiments, hands-on activity, that they're more engaged. And it reduces off-task behavior, which is another component of facets of blended learning. Because what you want to do, it piques the student's interest. And as you did, when I gave you the assignment, you automatically, and everyone went to the multimedia, like iPad, their cell phone, and then the attention went from the teacher and also onto the computer and the technology, which captured your attention. So it cuts down on off-task behavior, unwarranted behavior, because now they're engaged in the activity and the learning.
what about the curiosity of your students?
Okay, the curiosity. When you think about thinking about curiosity, I'm thinking about what's going to capture me. So not only the fire, not only just the point of just me getting actively involved on my internet, on my computer, but actually doing it and getting engaged in it. So the hands-on, that I can go to my computer, I can go to my social media, and then I can learn, and the teacher don't have to say anything but facilitate.
Thank you.
Yeah, I thank you, Brother Sam, like that in college, and that's the big picture. Sister Lisa, could you just give me just a summary, a quick summary, what you just read, and what is it talking about? Just give me a quick snapshot.
Well, I was just saying that in fire there is a continuous rainbow of colors. However, that some of the colors, obviously the red tones are seen more than the blue and the purples, and that it's carbon and hydrogen, the reason why we see gives off the blue or green light.
Thank you. Mrs. DeBerry, what did you read, and how can you relate to what was just given to you, the information?
That it's almost like a continuous rainbow, and that you have certain atoms or molecules that have certain elements such as copper or barium, cesium, that don't give off those colors or emissions. However, it's the carbon and hydrogen that drives the color to give you the green flames. And something, if you do anything with a fluorescent light bulb, can also give you those colors as well, and where you see the purplish hues. So I think with the intensity of the flame brightens the colors.
Thank you. Does anybody else have anything to add to that? So we heard about intensity, we heard about the brightness of the flame. She talked about, I heard about someone say about the combustion, I heard you said about oxidation, I heard you talk about the uses of how the actual flame. Now who can tell me what this is?
That's a lighter.
It's a lighter. Now what are lighters used for?
Cigarettes.
Oh, some cigarettes, and okay, what else?
Lighting something, lighting a candle.
Lighting a candle, good.
Creating fires.
Creating fires, excellent.
Barbecue.
Barbecue, 4th of July is coming up, barbecue grill.
Firecrackers. Shoelaces.
Firecrackers and shoelaces, excellent. Now, the fire, those things and tools that you just told me that can be used with a fire, with this lighter, is a situation that you are connecting. You're connecting your personal experience, prior knowledge, to their uses or what you know about a lighter. I will be using this lighter today in our mini science lesson. Now, you read about a fire, you read about copper sulfur. Some people talked about heat. Now, in one sentence, because now I want to focus on the writing, the grammar, the critical thinking, and the rest to your rationale. Write one sentence, what do you think a fire is? In your own words, what is a fire? How do you use fire? And you can write it on the paper if you like. In one response, what is fire? In your own words. Take your time, check your sentences, make sure that it makes sense, make sure that it's clear.
Mr. Smith, I'm going to be one of your top-notch students, and I'm going to say fire is the coming together of highly charged metals and non-metal molecules.
Read that again, sir. A little louder.
Fire is the coming together of highly charged metal and non-metal molecules.
Then I'm going to be your student. Fire is a serious situation, so I'm going to move down.
Okay, and that's a great point, Mr. Cunningham. What you have to understand, the reason why I have my safety goggles on, students and teachers, is because safety is always first. we always must prevent ourselves, because when you're dealing with fire, there are some casualties, there can be some serious situations that encounter. So safety is so critical, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because fire can be dangerous, it can be hazardous. So safety is always first. Now, Mr. Ellaby, can you start the video? Now this video that we're going to be watching is a hands-on video. I got this video from, it was from Steve Spangler, but it was a link to him. And what it will show you, the visual component of blended learning. So not only the students are actively engaged, they're going to see a hands-on, but they also going to see the actual component of how to make the fire. Because once again, we're dealing with our students who are visual learners. And those are some of the materials, and I will be discussing them shortly. And this is the actual process. Because a lot of our students, they might not be familiar with doing a science experiment, or they might not be really familiar with the process, critical thinking, the steps or procedures. And they're actually walking you through the scientific process, the scientific method on how to make green fire. All right, stop. Thank you, Ms. Now, what happens is I use this kind of process, and the kids gave me the idea when we went on the field trip. And it talked about how incorporating that exposure to hands-on activities within your classroom to blend their learning. So what they did, they looked at different various experiments in Chicago, and then they talked about it, we brought it back to the school, and we talked about how we can incorporate it into a lesson so they can see the visual kinesthetic connection. Now, what I will be doing is the mini experiment. Now, the first thing you need is your materials. I have some heat, which will be a substance as my liquid, which will create the chemical reaction. I have, this is some, it's called root kill, and this was my sulfur. Who had the definition for copper sulfur? Okay, could you read that definition to us? Thank you, Mr. DeVere. And this will be my copper sulfate.
Copper sulfate, also known as cupric sulfate or copper sulfate, is a chemical compound with the chemical formula CuSO4. This salt exists as a series of compounds that differ in their degree of hydration.
Thank you. Because I didn't have actually the powdered copper sulfate, I use this as a substitute, and because it has copper in it and sulfate in it, it will still do the same and use the same reaction. Now, the first thing that I'll need to do is I'll pour a little of this heat, and it says for quick winter starts, prevent, is there a fire? Okay, no, okay.
There is a, right by the light bulb.
Okay, great. Okay, so it says for winter starts, prevent freezes up, but the safety, poisonous, contains methyl alcohol, cannot be made non-poisonous, avoid contact with eyes and skins, first aid, hazardous. So we have to be careful when we doing such experiments as this. So that's why I'll be demonstrating and showing you in the blended learning. Now first I'll be pouring. Just a little bit of the liquid heat. Oh, it's trying too much.
Are you preparing, Mr. Smith?
Actually, I'm preparing you. I'm showing you how to make. Oh, my hand's burning.
But as you preparing, I noticed that you mentioned safeties first. Do you give a disclaimer to the students? Please, please, please do not try this at home.
You know what? That's
very important.
It's very important.
Our kids are very
right, because they're so inquisitive and they're so curious and they're so engaging. You always have to stress the importance of disclaimers of, please do not try this at home. It may cause, and that's why I start out by reading the hazards and the cautions of it's poisonous, it can be dangerous if swallowed or contain your eyes. So, and safety is always first. Okay, now, I just poured the solution heat on the root kill. And what you're going to see is, hopefully you'll see a flame, and that flame, because of the oxygen, the carbon inside the flame and the light from the heat will show an emission spectrum. And that spectrum is like a rainbow. When the sun hits on the atmosphere or the clouds, it shows a rainbow of various colors. Now this color in particular, you will be seeing green. Okay. Yeah, because I don't know what's going to happen. Okay, all right, here we go. Okay, now what? Okay, check the lights.
Oh my God.
Now, and what you're noticing, class, is that I took the heat, which we started with from the cigarette lighter, and I lit it towards the root kill, which has a copper sulfate in it, and actually the heat, which is considered a liquid gasoline unfriends with a chemical that changes into a green fire.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
You use something different with blue. Does the blue of that powdered stuff on there help any of the green, or
Well,
if you
because
used orange or something?
it's a great question. Because I didn't have any copper sodium, I use a supplement, which is the root kill, and that's just the root kill.
But the blue of it doesn't
no,
have
the
anything
blue,
to do
no,
with
the
the
blue,
fire.
no.
So if you would have used yellow, it would have been a green fire too, if that had...
Right, if I'd
okay.
use yellow. Yep, the color actually is pretty much the emission spectrum that makes it green, the carbon and the hydrogen from the air and oxygen that turns it green, and then the spectrum.
Now does the fire go away once that is
No,
burned off?
I know I have to blow it out.
Oh,
Yeah,
because once
okay.
that heat is like burnt off,
Right.
then it stops.
It's not going. No, it's not going to just
Oh.
die down. I'll pretty much have to blow it out. Okay. Okay. Yeah.
So, Mr. Smith,
Yes.
so when you're doing your laboratory work, and does the engagement level of your students rises?
I'm sorry.
Does the engagement level of your student rises?
When we did this actual mini experiment about a week ago, and I got the idea from one of my students, and she did this, and it was a great idea. And what I learned was that the more the fire, the more she got us prepared, the more excited, the more hooked, the more engaged they began. And a lot of times, blended learning talks about active learning, but setting up the core or learning environment that's going to not only engage the student, but pique their interest. So when they saw the fires and the flame, they was like, oh, when they wanted to, because that's why I did the experiment last. Because I built them up with the vocabulary, I talked about the learning, I talked about the critical thinking in reference to the knowledge, the background, prior knowledge, and then we hooked them with the actual mini experiment.
As a side issue, what were they doing this morning out in the parking lot?
Oh, on the side, oh, actually, they were doing rockets, and they were making bottle rockets out of homemade rockets, and they took some works, aluminum foil, and plastic bottles, and they were trying to make rockets.
Okay.
And that was something that they had to do prior to our other experiment.
Do you see scientists coming from your learning or from your teaching? Because the way I'm looking at it, if I was a student, you know, that I was just, let's say I was your average student, that I wasn't too much interested in science.
Okay.
After a student is engaged in maybe one or two of your science activities in your class, do you see a lot of, you know, light bulbs going all around your room and your school, I mean, in your classroom, like, can't wait for Mr. Smith to do another one, because not only are we just doing experiments,
I mean, yes,
but we
because
also...
I'm sitting right here like, I can't wait till I get to the house, I'm gonna try it.
Because there's also questions that Mr. Smith added, and it's not just true or false, but it's more like, can you identify some of the things that was there? Can you analyze the situations? Can you summarize? Can you see the influences? I mean, do your kids...
I think the biggest thing is that I always try to set them up for the big picture. They may not see where we're heading at the beginning, but when I bring it all together and blend it together as far as the concept, the background, the history, the knowledge, and the actual components. Because one thing you want to do, you want to make your classroom engaging. You want to make your classroom so active and the lessons so enticing that they'll say, you know what, that light bulb will come on. Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, I want to do this. Oh, I want to try that. And then once you get them connected or hooked per se, then you can teach them anything. Then it eliminates the unwanted behavior because they want to do it. They want to try it. So you do have that light bulb. And because it starts with the preparation, planning, the lesson, and then that information on laying the foundation so they can be engaged, so they can be.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Thank
Smith.
you.
And doesn't this show that even if you have limited technology in your classroom, blended learning doesn't always have to be going online and doing that part? This was an experiment and it's blended learning.
Blended learning, and that's absolutely correct. And
Thank you very much, Mr. Smith.
thank you.
I really appreciate that. Next, we're going to have one presentation from Ms. DeBarry. She's going to show us how she communicates with her students. And the way they communicate is very well. Mr. John Daniels is going to help us demonstrate this along with Ms. DeBarry. So just give us about 30 seconds, you're going to see it light up. Here we go. What you see there is Ms. DeBarry.
Hey, John, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. Can you see us?
Yes. So what I need for you to do, John, is log in to Achieve 3000.
Okay.
And then I believe I have the student code on that paper for you.
Okay, I'm going to Achieve 3000.
And
Okay.
then in the upper right, there's a login.
Okay, so I'm in. Oh, no, I'm not.
Okay, so what I need for you to do is go to the mail on the left-hand side.
Okay, so I'm going to mail on the left-hand side.
Yes.
All right.
And then within your email box, I'd like for you to go to classwork. Do you see that?
Yes, I see classwork.
All right, I want you to open that up.
Okay.
All right, so what you can see, you weren't able to be with us in school today, but seeing that you're at home, I'd like for you to still continue your assignments. So I wrote you a note to let you know that sorry that you couldn't be in school today, but I'd like to walk you through the work that you missed today. So follow along as I guide you through your Achieve 3000 lesson. Any questions, feel free to ask as we go along.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So now go back to inbox,
Okay.
off to the left, and now click on what will you do this summer.
Oh, okay. And then I see, please
And
read the
now-
article. Do I click on the
All right,
article?
so go ahead and hit the blue line.
Okay.
So now, due to our time constraints, I would just have you read what the assignment would be, and then it's just basically what you plan on doing on your next vacation. So as you see, there are some directions, and then you're going to be writing a friendly letter to a friend. It could be somebody at school or somebody outside of school, but remember, your audience is a friend. So think who you might want to consider writing to. And I want you to have a graphic organizer, so click on the graphic organizer that I have installed for you.
Okay. Oh, it's so the graphic organizer, even though I wasn't in school, comes up right here on my computer, and then I could choose to save it and edit it actually on my computer, or I can print it out and do it just like as if I was in the classroom?
Yes, you may.
Okay, wow.
So then this would drive your writing before you can start your pre-writing.
Okay.
So then after you have done your, go ahead.
So if I understand correctly, this is a great tool not only for students who are out sick, but it's also something that could be used for snow days or other items, so students don't fall behind.
Most definitely. So as you can see, Achieve 3000 doesn't just address reading issues, it also encompasses writing as well. And then I have the ability to see what you've done on your assignments and track your progress either at home or at school with you.
That is the part.
That's excellent. That's excellent.
And that could even just be in the classroom when
Yes.
kids
Yeah.
could just check their inbox in the classroom.
Thank
And
you,
as you're
Mr.
going around, they could get started.
Thank you very much, Ms. DeBerry. That was excellent.
That was excellent.
Excellent.
Now,
No problem.
as we come to a closure, yesterday I asked you what was blended learning in 2 words. Today, why is blended learning an intricate part in education?
I think one thing that we just saw as a culmination is when you take tools and combine them with good teaching, it's not a substitute for good teaching. That when you combine tools with good teaching, it allows students not only in illness ways, but also to intrigue their mind so that they can continue learning outside the classroom.
You would get a great success.
I see it being, most importantly, a financial benefit. I can see less school buildings, less books, less pencils, papers, et cetera, and unfortunately, less teachers.
Unplug it.
I think, though, that we can reach each student individually instead of reaching the class as a whole. With blended learning, we really can reach out to every student and meet every student's need as an individual.
And I think that students will like to come to school, the ones who struggle or just don't even want to come. Now with this, they'll feel comfortable, they're coming to do work that they can do, and that school will become enjoyable again.
I guess I would only have to say, it's right there on the board. It is important to note that blended learning is not just integrating online content or using cool new technologies. As in the case that you had just seen, blended learning requires an effective teacher to guide and support student learning. And what you have in blended learning, and particularly in this group here, you have effective teachers who know how to blend, who understand blending, and take into consideration their students, to focus on student-centered learning. Thank you very much for joining us again, and we hope to try this again. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.